polar opposites. Heroes, spoiled rotten kids. Where the rich, the opulent, like you understand when they say someone's the opulent need the poor cleaning their offices. Dualities, bro. Also here, he is highlighting the wide gap of wealth distribution, right? The opulent, very rich, the very rich, for them to stay rich. I also feel like here, he was subtly highlighting how this system works. For this system of capitalism to continue to work, there needs to be people who are at the bottom. For the elite to remain elite, there needs to be people who stay or remain at the bottom, right? The opulent need, he didn't say want, no, because when you need something, it has to happen. Like you need it for you to survive, right? The opulent need the poor cleaning their offices, right? So if we're all equal, if we all have our own money, why am I going to have to go and work for some men out there and not spend time with my family, doing what my family and I can do? Let them clean their own offices. You understand? So for the rich to enjoy the luxuries of being rich and for them to continue being rich, they need the poor cleaning their offices. We push rocket ships like Elon Musk, charge the whip, but still stuck in shit because we ain't got a pot to piss in. That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT! He's in true form. He's killing them with the flu shot. He's sick. Bro, he's sick because he's sick, dog. Still doing the most. That's part 1. I'll catch you on part 2.
Bunch of waterheads boarding pity boats, thinking they mavericks. I learned how to swim upstream way before the flow was ever current. This a different palette. Groom the guineas like a who take it easy, booty. Still hurting, I feel out in human form. Said nothing at all when they try to play me. Pray on me like compliments are supposed to pay me for a feature. I need at least a house worth full of cavities to sleep sweet and sound in. How many pieces of myself are left in the hands of strangers?
Let's pick it up where we left off. I know you're probably mad at me. I know, guys. I know. I'm sorry. I am sorry. But without a doubt, I am back. And this time, I promise, I'm here to stay on these YouTube streets. You know, I've been there, that side, TikTok, Instagram. But my YouTube family, I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm back. I really am back.
The lion is back. This is the return of the tiger. I am back. I'm back. I'm back. Yes. Thank you.
And as you have already probably seen from the previously, we will be continuing our lyric breakdown of Stogie T's Sway in the Morning Freestyle. Welcome to part 2. Molweni kuni lonke, gama lami nguthando lwethu, abanye benu bandazi ngo Coffee Mac, utata wesizwe, and welcome to yet another exciting installment of the lyric breakdown. As I had mentioned, that we'll be breaking down Stogie T's Sway in the Morning Freestyle. If you haven't checked out part 1, make sure you do. And if you already have, I'm sorry for making you wait this long. So yeah, let us get into it. So Stogie T then continues to say
38 like Jordan in Utah, killing them with the flu shot. Struce God, that means trust me, I'm nutty as RuPaul, but I wear out a pussy like King Jaffe in New York. What could you do, bro? When I promise you all the smoke, I am so Calvin, bro, this is Snoop Dogg.
Struce God, that means trust me, I'm nutty as RuPaul, but I wear out a pussy like King Jaffe in New York. What could you do, bro? So let us break this down. So obviously when he says I'm nutty as RuPaul, here he compares himself, he uses a metaphor by comparing himself to RuPaul. RuPaul, who is well known for being a drag queen. He has done many other things, but he is famous for being a drag queen and his show RuPaul's Drag Race, right? So I'm nutty as RuPaul. So we know that the act of dragging is an androgynous act where you wear like a female or you wear like the opposite sex. Yes, androgynous dressing, right? Drag racing. So drag, you're wearing drag, but most of the time it's hyperbolized. Like some of the features are hyperbolized, and you know, because the hair is, yeah, but it's just like an out there show. It's extroverted, right? So I'm nutty as RuPaul. As we all know that RuPaul is a male, of course. So I'm nutty as RuPaul. I've got balls like RuPaul. But then also when they say that someone has balls, that means they're brave, you know, they're brave, they're outgoing, they go for what they want, right? I'm nutty as RuPaul. So Stogie could be saying that I'm nutty. Also, when someone is nuts, they're crazy, like I'm crazy like RuPaul, right? So people probably thought, like at first people were like, RuPaul's crazy for doing what he's doing, like dressing like a woman. That is crazy. But I'm ballsy like him. Also, it takes a lot of bravery for you to go out of your way and dress like a woman in a society that, you know, that constricts people to certain norms, right? So I'm nutty as RuPaul, ballsy like RuPaul could also be talking about RuPaul's personality, because RuPaul is extroverted, but I wear out a pussy like King Jaffe. So this is what we call a double or a triple, I would say a triple entendre, right? In a sense that RuPaul dresses very well, like he even outdresses other women, right? Most women, right? The way he kills that drag thing, right? So I wear out a pussy. So now it creates this antithesis, as someone said on Genius, that it creates this antithesis where RuPaul is a man, but then he wears like a woman, right? He dresses like a woman, right? So now I wear out a pussy. So I outdress other females as RuPaul does, but like King Jaffe in New York. Who is King Jaffe? King Jaffe is a fictional character from Eddie Murphy's Coming to America, and is played by the late James Earl Jones, who was also, I believe, Simba. No, Mufasa, yes, who I also believe was Mufasa on The Lion King. Rest in peace to Mr. James Earl Jones. So what does he mean when he says, I wear a pussy like King Jaffe in New York? So obviously, in Coming to America, King Jaffe is seen wearing the hide of a lion, right? Since he's the king from Africa, Zamunda, right? And in African tradition, so in an article with Face to Face Africa, Ubabu Buzetsheni Mdletshe, who is a well-known praise singer, as well as an author, I believe, did mention that in Zulu tradition, the lion is regarded as the king of the jungle, right? I also believe in many other cultures and traditions, the lion is regarded as the king of the jungle. So for you to ascend to Isihlalo Sobukhosi, you then have to slay the dragon, the lion, I mean. You then have to kill the lion to show the people that you have ascended from just being a common person, but you deserve and you are chosen by your people to be to be a king, which is also something that we saw on Shaka Ilembe. If you watch Shaka Ilembe, then you saw that before Shaka became king, he met with his father, and then he had to kill the lion in his dreams, right? This is also done by the most recent king, Misuzulu, who killed the lion to show that he actually is the king, right? But I wear a pussy like King Jaffe in New York. But now, the way Stogie words it, right? We do know that lions fall in the same kingdom of cats, no, the same species of cats, right? They're from a similar family, but they're more vicious, right? But now when he says, I wear out a pussy, obviously it's like he minimizes that a lion is, of course a lion is a cat, but it's a more vicious and ferocious cat compared to like a domesticated cat, right? But now when he says a pussy, like obviously pussy cat, maybe you think like a Puss in Boots or something, or something like that, right? So he minimizes the size, or I would say the magnitude of what it takes to like kill a lion, right? So we're at a pussy like King Jaffe in New York, obviously. And now this then ties in very well with the fact that rappers sometimes, MCs are also called cats sometimes, right? And when you don't want to call someone a cat, obviously when you say pussy, you are saying now they are pussy niggas, right? Obviously pussy ass niggas, which is a common rap term that is used to show that you guys are like small boys, right? Or you're weak men, or like you're weak compared to me and the skills that I have. So I wear a pussy like King Jaffe in New York. And then now when we look at the ties, obviously, where is King Jaffe from? He is from Africa, right? Stogie T is from Africa. So I wear a pussy like King Jaffe in New York. And where are Shade 45 Studios? Shade 45 Studios, where the Sway freestyles happen, are in New York. And when he says like, I wear out a pussy like King Jaffe in New York, obviously rap cats. So he's coming there to challenge the best of the best. Going to a Sway freestyle is regarded as you going there to show off how great you are, right? At freestyling, or how great of a rapper you actually are. So of course, like, there've been multiple acts that have been like top tier that went to Shade 45, right? Like the best of the best, the cream of the crop type thing. So like King Jaffe in New York. So obviously Stogie is there to kill these rap cats, these lions. We got a hyena, so he's there to show that all of these hyenas don't got shit on me. But by him already wording it that way, like, I wear out a pussy like King Jaffe in New York, he's already showing Uguti, they're already lost, because I'm that guy, right? So I also think this is an interesting fact to add, the fact that when RuPaul then later on also moved to Atlanta, moved to New York after studying in Atlanta, right? Where I believe he then formalized his career of then becoming a drag queen, and that's where everything then blossomed, right? So now we see a link between all of these three people. So they all moved to New York, and then they somewhat, overtake like King Jaffe in New York. King Jaffe is there to get his son, who is Eddie Murphy. You understand? So yeah.
That's called motherfucking bars, nigga. You know nothing about that.
So which I also think is fine. And then when he says, obviously, what could you do, bro? So it just showed you like, I'm gonna wear out a pussy nigga. And then he asks the pussy nigga like, what is you gonna do about it, nigga? You understand what I mean? So yeah. And also I did mention that the last option would be sex, because following the context of everything, it seems like Stogie's just mentioning how dope of a rapper he is, and how far he's willing to go to annihilate his colleagues and ops, right, in the sport of rap. Yeah. Then now moving forward, Stogie T then continues to say,
this is the diary of a madman who should have been stamped champ, but I rode above their heads like Anne Frank. Fam, I'm a giant amongst ants, like the tyrant from Baghdad who's saying I can't hang on camera. Grew up with hammers, M16 hammers, no dances, miss me with MC Hammer. I'm a cool G rap alumni, these my handlers. The Kufi Nas from NY, Jesus Medallion, reading Langston Hughes, El Haj Malik Shabazz, and
I promise you all the smoke, I am so Calvin Brodus to Snoop Dogg. This the diary of a madman who should have been stamped champ, but I wrote above their heads like Anne Frank. My face too. My face too. Dog. You see this freestyle? Every time I listen to it, I'm like, this is. But yeah, let's go into it. So when I promise you all the smoke, I'm so Calvin Brodus to Snoop Dogg. I didn't necessarily know how to interpret this. My first thought was, oh, Snoop probably owns a weed business, right? Snoop Dogg probably owns a weed business. Of course he does. Leaves by Snoop, but then, Leaves by Snoop. And then I thought its name was probably going to be All the Smoke, right? But it's Leaves by Snoop. So what I thought was, since Calvin Brodus is Snoop Dogg's real name, like on the ID Calvin Brodus, right? So when he said, I promise you all the smoke, when I promise you all the smoke, I am so Calvin Brodus to Snoop Dogg. It's like I switch, right? Because Snoop is known to smoke. I would say the character Snoop Dogg is known for smoking a lot of weed. So when I promise you all the smoke, maybe like Calvin Brodus, because these are personas, right? So there's a difference between a Snoop Dogg, and maybe there is a difference between a Calvin Brodus and a Snoop Dogg. I'd say Calvin Brodus is more like the businessman type thing, or the family man type thing. The guy we don't see on TV acting, or the guy on a podcast. type thing, right? So when he says, I'm so Calvin Brutus to Snoop Dogg, so I switch from this guy, and then I, you know what? Also, like, Snoop was a real G, like, you know, type thing. That's what his music says. When I promise you all the smoke, I'm so Calvin Brutus to Snoop Dogg. Real cheese, you understand, like real cheese type thing. Yeah, bro. So yeah, promise you all the smoke. Obviously, like you wanna get the smoke like combat. Yeah, bro, by rap wise, because he did say I wear a pussy nigga like King Jaffe in New York. So obviously, yeah, bro, when I promise you all the smoke, I am so Calvin Brutus to Snoop Dogg. So I switch, like I'm giving you all the smoke. Yeah, bro, because Snoop Dogg is known for a lot of smoke. Understand? Then he says, this is the diary of a madman who should have been stamped champ, but I wrote above their heads like Anne Frank.
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Let's start it off with okay, we also have internal rhymes here, right? So we have internal rhymes, the diary of a madman who should have been stamped champ, right? But I wrote above their heads like Anne Frank. Yeah, but man, and we have internal or slant rhymes, I would say, right? But now, obviously, let's start with the first plausible option here. So I wrote above their heads like Anne Frank. We also have a simile. Yes. Is it? Yes. We also, oh yeah, Nutty as RuPaul. I think that was also a simile. Yes, that was also a simile. So we have another simile here. Who is Anne Frank? Anne Frank was Anne Frank is a German girl who wrote like a diary, right? Who wrote a diary about her experience being locked up in an annex with her family and 8 other people, an annex that her father owned or rented, whilst they were being searched for by German Nazis, right? So she documents this, I believe, for about, was it 2 years? I think it's about two years, or yeah, two or a year or 2 months. Yeah, if I'm not I think it's 2 years if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think it's about 2 years if I'm not mistaken. So she was on the 2nd floor of this annex. The annex also had a secret door that they supposedly couldn't go through, or like they didn't notice, right? They thought it wasn't working anymore. So they were on the 2nd floor when Anne kept writing the diary. So I do believe that the Nazis were searching for them in the 1st floor. So I wrote above their heads like Anne Frank, right? And also Anne's book is titled The Diary of a Young Girl, right? The Diary of a Young Girl, the Diary of a Madman. But now there is another possible explanation for this, right? So the Diary of a Madman, I then went on to check what else could be like the Diary of a Madman besides the Diary of a Mad Black Woman on Tyler Perry's movie, which also doesn't have any links to this, right? So this could also refer to Scarface's book. Brad Scarface Jordan, one of the leaders of hip-hop, like hip-hop culture. I haven't read the book yet, but I do think that is probably interesting. And the name of the book is The Diary of a Madman, or The Diary of a Madman Who Should Have Been Stamped Champ. So when I check the summary of the book, it does say that it follows his life becoming one of hip-hop's greatest acts, right? Also talks about his trials and tribulations, some of the things that he probably faced, like, yeah, that's what an autobiography is about, right? Who should have been stamped champ. And we know that Stogie T is into rap like that, and these people are from his era. These are probably the people that he probably listened to a lot, right? The Diary of a Madman who should have been stamped champ, right? But of course, when he says that, but I wrote above their heads like Anne Frank, it's because Stogie's material is not easily digestible. Like, he doesn't say something now and then you get it. I mean, even in the previous episode, we had like an hour, we spent probably 10 to 15 minutes just dissecting 1 bar or 2 bars. Like, you understand what I mean? even now with this one, this King Jaffe line, it had 3 possible like interpretations even now with this one. So obviously I should have been stamp champ. Like people that know which, yeah, Stogie is that guy, but then he doesn't fully extend to the general public because his music is not, you don't catch it the first time, or it's probably not as like mainstream as it's supposed to be, right? Yeah, so that's why he says, so it's probably like, I would say probably like an Earl or a Make, right? Like people take time, but eventually like a Saba, you understand, like all those rappers, like, yeah, your Baba Kushis, yeah, those are the people you, because you have to, you don't just like, oh boom, oh this is a dope bar, right? So yeah, the Diary of a Madman. So he's actually, I would say he's also angry with the fact that, like, guys, I'm showing you that I have all of this acumen and all of this skill, but seems like I'm not getting my flowers whilst I'm still alive, type thing. And I feel like this freestyle did that because it was crazy that this freestyle popped off the way it popped off, right? And people were like, yo, Stogie T. And now in every conversation, most people are like, yo, when people mention like those guys, those rappers, they're like, yo, Stogie T though, Stogie though. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then he moves on to say, fam, I am a giant amongst ants, like the tyrant from Baghdad. Who's saying, then he winks at the camera, who's saying I can't hang on camera?
I'm trying to be cool, but goddamn.
Nina, who's saying I can't hang on camera? Bro, obviously. So now someone on Genius also broke this down and said, I am a giant amongst ants. So obviously giant amongst ants, like I'm big. And then he also did say, I think in the first, we'll say the first verse, where it was like, I put your certified hyenas in elephant graves. I'm punching way above the ceiling. You said it's the grade. Way above the ceiling. I wrote above their heads like Anne Frank. My God. But he says, I'm a giant amongst ants, right? Like the tyrant from Baghdad, who's saying I can't hang on camera. So who is the tyrant from Baghdad? So the tyrant from Baghdad he is referring to is Saddam Hussein, right? Saddam Hussein, who was the commander-in-chief of the Iraqi military. And there was also a military coup to try and bring him down, like the likes of Osama bin Laden, right? So they brought him because they thought he was as they say, that he was a tyrant, right? So when Stogie T says, who's saying I can't hang on camera, like, that's a pun, bro. That is a pun. Who's saying Saddam Hussein? Who's saying I can't hang on camera? Also, Saddam Hussein's execution was televised, right? But they do mention that it was cut before he was hung. But then a video then leaked showing that he was hung, right? Who's saying I can't hang on camera? So also the giant word was then, someone on Genius actually split it into like GI. So if we look at GI, obviously those like GI Joe, military term, general income, no. Yeah, like GI, giant amongst ants. So someone broke it down like that. And then I also then continued to check, isn't there an ant that is known as a tyrant? So it actually turns out that there is an ant known as a black tyrant that is found in Australia, right? And this ant is known for protecting its territory aggressively, right? Which these are the same characteristics that I would say Saddam Hussein had. He was known for wanting to protect Iraqi aggressively. He wanted to protect these people, wanted to, be at the forefront and at the helm of everything. You understand? So who's saying I can't hang on camera? And I also think that Stogie T is saying that like I can also be one with the peoples, although I write above their heads, but I can also be with the peoples, you know, like I can hang on camera, I can do this thing. You understand? I'm not saying I'm above, but you know, I can mingle with the peoples. You understand what I mean? Then he continues to say, grew up on hammers, M16 hammers, miss me with the dances, no MC hammer. I'm a cool G rap alumni, these my handlers. The Kofi Nas from NY, Jesus Medallion, reading Langston Hughes, El Haj Malik, Al Shabazz name.
Oh shit, that's all I can say.
Bro. So of course when he says that grew up on M16 hammers, we also have an imperfect rhyme there. M16 MC. So of course hammers in these, so miss me with the MC Hammer. So as you know that MC Hammer was a famous, well-known hip-hop artist who was known for like theatrics on the field, you know, and on the stage also wearing very shiny pants where he would then dance, you know, like the funk type thing, like, yeah. So we'll put up a clip here to show you who MC Hammer was.
Can't touch this. 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 Can't touch this.
Stogie T says that I grew up on M16 hammers. He just shows us that he did mention this on the roots that he actually was born in Tanzania. And then on the Inside Show recently with Josh, he does mention that his parents were exiled, right? When they were fighting against the apartheid.
The story begins there, I think, in a land far from home.
Crazy, man. So you're born in Tanzania.
I was born in Tanzania. My mom and dad were kind of were active in the struggle, and so Tanzania is kind of called a non-frontline state. So like Mozambique is way too hot at the time, but Tanzania is far enough that like you can build some camps and have some kids and whatnot. So there was a camp there called Samafco, and I was born in a place called Morogoro on the foothills of this mountain. And yeah, they had a camp there, man. I went back a couple years ago with my mom, and there's like graves and everything for all these people who used to, you know, this small community of South Africans who hosted by the Tanzanian Julius Nyerere at the time.
Crazy, bro. And so when did everybody come back?
13. Yeah, 12, 13. I was right after like kind of the unbanning and the around the election time. So yeah, it was like a reintroduction to all these mythical things that were built up in your mind. You know, you're going back home. It's like, you know, I remember how disappointed I was, bro, driving from the airport to the house. I was like, yo, like just driving to Soweto with the shacks, and I was like, yo. Nah.
Yeah. 16 hammers. So Stogie T is showing us that he grew up on real violence. Like he's just not. It's not a game. Like he's not lying, right? Grew up on M16 hammers. He grew up on that real life. Like grew up on some real violent shit. Grew up in a violent environment, so he knows that type of thing. But then he says no dancers miss me with the MC Hammer. This also speaks to the kind of MC that he is a real shooter. Like he's not about the gimmicks, he's not about all of that. All he's all about is rapping. Like let us rap. So that's why he tends to, I wrote above their heads like N Frank. So of course if it's inspired by acts like Nas, Malcolm X, Langston Hughes, who is a social activist, a known social activist, a playwright, a poet, right? And he's also known as one of the founding fathers of the Harlem Renaissance, right? So of course, if you're influenced by people like that, you are bound to also somewhat follow the same track. You're also bound to use your art as a way of educating people or fighting against the system. Artivism, as he likes to call it, right? Someone on Genius put down a beautiful analysis of the Kofi Nas from NY Jesus Medallion, right? Showing the antithesis between the Muslim and Christian thing. Where also when Stogie T was starting off the verse, it also had a bit of that. Like he wasn't entirely he mentioned a lot of races, he mentioned a lot of religions, and then also when he says Al Hajj Malik Al Shabazz, he is making reference to Malcolm X. Malcolm X, who I believe after he switched to Islam, he then changed his name to Al Hajj Malik Al Shabazz. So of course, if he is reading those people and maybe also growing up in an environment like that, that will then tell us why he will choose to use his art in this way. So no dancers miss me with the MC hammer. Like I can hang on camera, but I'm still gonna spit that shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, that's it. That is part 2 of the lyric breakdown. I will see you guys on the third and final episode of the breakdown. Yes, of Stogie T Sway in the morning. I do hope that you enjoyed this. Do leave a comment down below, like, subscribe, do all of the right things, man. Yeah. Shut up.